Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How you
Uh,
doing?
oh, I feel like $1 million. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I'm glad you were able to get in touch. Let me introduce you to all those who watch our interview.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a very special guest. A young, hungry, and undefeated boxer who is quickly making noise in the professional boxing scene. At just 22 years old, he already holds a perfect record of 6 wins and 0 losses, with impressive finish and dominant performances. Fighting out of Amarillo, Texas, Javier Meza represents a new generation of fighters, disciplined, explosive, and fearless inside the ring. Every fight he steps into, he proves that he is not just here to compete, he is here to take over. An orthodox fighter with sharp fundamentals and knockout power, he has already stopped multiple opponents and continues to build momentum with every performance. Javier, welcome and respect for staying undefeated.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I really respect fighters who started from nothing and built themselves through discipline. Your journey is especially interesting because you have stayed undefeated while developing your identity. Fans always want to know where it all began. Every champion has that first spark. Let's go back to your roots. When did you first fall love in with boxing?
So, I grew up watching boxing. My family they they love boxing. My dad's from Mexico, and so he grew up listening and watching Julio César Chavez. And my mom's from here from the United States, and she grew up watching Mike Tyson fight. So you know, me growing up, I was we had boxing every weekend here at the house, and my favorite fighter growing up was Manny Pacquiao. And so, um, yeah, I mean that was I've always loved boxing since watching him. Not even just like he was not just my favorite fighter just because of what he did in the ring, but like the way he was outside the ring, and so that was pretty much like me watching him fight made me want to become a boxer. And so my parents put me into boxing for self defense when I was 8 years old, and I fell in love with it. I started sparring and everything, and um, my dad he didn't let me fight till I was 11 years old because my footwork wasn't that well. So I had to train for 3 years before he let me finally fight, make my or fight for my in my first amateur fight. And so that's pretty much how I started. And I started off. I lost my first four amateur fights, and my parents were like, maybe this isn't for you. And so that was it. And then I finally won. And when I won, it was like the best feeling in the world. And so I just stuck with it. And so then now I'm here. I'm signed with the Golden Boy, and now we're 6-0 and trying to work for a world title shot later on in a few years.
The first coach is always a key figure in a fighter's life.
Hmm.
Builds not only technique but also character. That
Hmm.
relationship often defines the future. Who
Yes, sir.
was your first coach and what did he teach you the most?
So there was a gym here in Amarillo. It used to be a Nick's Fight Club, and it was kind of more like a boxing fitness. And so my mom, she was going there to like just to work out. And I mean, I loved boxing, so when she was there stretching and stuff, I would just grab a pair of gloves and just hit the bag. And no technique or nothing. Well, the owner of the gym, his name was Steve Nicholson. And well, since I was little, he saw that I had like the potential to be a fighter. And so he talked to my parents, and it was pretty much him that kind of like pushed my parents to put me in it. And he put me in it, and he had a trainer named Tino Jalomo, which was a professional fighter. I think he had like eight professional fights. And so it was him, and then we had another coach named John Walker, and they were my first trainers. When I first started, they were my trainers from when I was from 8 years old to about 14, to around when COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, everything got shut down and everything. And well, they stopped coaching, so I ended up moving to the gym. I will I and my the gym that I'm at right now, here in Amarillo. His name's Nieves Portillo, and so I moved with him. And when I moved with him, that was around the end of 2020. And so I've been with him for 6 years. And Champions Boxing Gym. And uh, from when I moved with him to when I turned pro, I had about 40 something amateur fights. I won nationals, I won state golden gloves, I went to the junior Olympics, I won junior Olympics, I went to the national golden gloves, I went to the Olympic trials, I won all these national tournaments with my coach here in Amarillo. And then when I had turned pro, I met a guy named Jimmy Montoya, and he recommended me to Coach Joel Diaz, Antonio Diaz, out of Indio, California. And so, the August of 2024, I moved out there to Indio, California, to start training with Coach Joel and Antonio Diaz, and the Diaz brothers training camp. And so I went with them, and yeah, now we're 6-0. They've done so much for me. They changed. I've had the same style, but they've kind of like adjusted it to more of a pro style instead of like the amateur style. So that's pretty much how my boxing career was with my coaching.
Early training is never easy. It
No,
tests discipline, patience, and mindset. Not everyone survives that stage. What was the hardest part of your early training days?
as I think the hardest part is probably being away from the family. When I go out to training camp, because the discipline, to me, the discipline, I've had discipline since I was an amateur. So like, to me, the discipline is not really hard for me, like with food and all that. Cause I feel like discipline, you're real disciplined when you want something. And so the discipline for me with like food and all that is not really hard for me. The hard part is like, being away from the family and all that when you're in camp. And that's pretty much the hardest part for me is being away from my siblings, my brother, friends, girlfriend, everybody.
How did your family react when you choose boxing? Mom, dad?
Mhm. They didn't. I mean, we love boxing, we do. But my parents, my grandparents, they didn't want me to box. And I remember, like my mom still to this day, she's like, "Dang, why'd you choose boxing? Like out of everything you could have done in this world, like." why boxing. And boxing is just it's just something, I don't know, it's just something like it makes me feel good. Like, when I'm after a fight, I come home, I feel like I don't got nothing to do when I don't have a fight, like I'm so I'm anxious to get back into the gym. I'm anxious to start fighting again. Like it's just something about it, it's like when you get your hand raised as the winner, it's like it feels like the greatest feeling.
Every fighter remember their first sparring session. It's often shocking and unforgettable. That's where reality hits. What do you remember about your very first sparring session?
So my very first sparring session was I actually got dropped my very first sparring session. It was I remember we were sparring, and I still remember the punch I got hit with. I got punched with the left hook. I got hit with the left hook on the top of the head, and I remember falling, and I remember just looking at the ceiling. That was the very first time I sparred, and like, and it's crazy because like, for that being the first time I sparred, and then still deciding to choose to box, like thinking about it, it sounds crazy, but when you like, I just loved boxing so much, so I just decided to keep going. But yeah, I remember I got dropped the very first time I sparred.
Losing is part of growth, especially early on. It builds hunger and resilience. Did you lose early in your career? And what did it teach you?
Yeah, my first four amateur fights, I lost all four of those. But it hurt, but I still kept going. And I remember my fifth amateur fight, I finally won. And like I said, it felt like it was like the best feeling in the world knowing that you did like all that hard work you put in paid off. But yeah, I did my first four amateur fights, I did lose them.
Training environment matters a lot. It creates champions. I am sure you are future champion. What was your dream like when you started?
My dream when I had started boxing was to go to the Olympics, win a gold medal, and then turn pro and be world champion. And I was close to making it to the Olympics. I made it to the Olympic trials, but later, like in the later end of my amateur career, I was kind of like getting tired of amateur, like with the judging. It's because like amateur boxing, I feel like it's real political, and I stopped. Like like the dream I had of going to the Olympics was like fading away. I just was thinking about turning pro, and so yeah, my dream was to go to the Olympics and then turn pro and then be a world champion.
Not everyone sticks with boxing. Only strong minds stay. What made you stay in boxing and not quit?
I like the being in like that routine of like waking up knowing that I have an opponent that's also training, getting ready to fight me. I like waking up in the morning, being able to or knowing that I have a fight, that I got this other guy that's trying to go in there to hurt me. I don't know, it's just something about being in that camp mode routine, knowing that I have a fight coming up and that all that hard work that I'm putting in is gonna pay off.
Amateur boxing builds the foundation for pros. It's
Mhm.
where fighters learn discipline and ring IQ. How would you describe your amateur career overall? Are you satisfied with your amateur career?
I was satisfied with my amateur career. You know, I was an aggressive fighter always. I was never one of those fighters that moved around or ran. I've always came to come and fight you. And but yeah, I was pretty satisfied with my amateur career, I fought a lot of uh top ranked fighters in the United States. I fought fighters that fought on Team USA that went to all these other countries and fought in. I fought. I've beaten the number one fighters in the nation and in the world. I was ranked number one, and I was ranked in like the top five, ranked in the top five in the here in the United States in four weight classes, in four different weight classes. So, and I made it to the Olympic trials, the Golden Glove. So I made it. I won the Olympic or Junior Olympics. So I was pretty satisfied with how my amateur career went.
Every amateur has that one fight they never forget.
Mhm.
What was your most memorable amateur fight?
Um, my most memorable fight in amateurs is probably gonna be when I fought in the Junior Olympics, and the guy I had fought and was ranked like the number one fighter in the world. He was what weight did we fight at? I think we were fighting at 156 pounds, and we were fighting at the Junior Olympics. And I remember this guy I was fighting. He was on Team USA, and he had just gotten back from fighting. I forgot what country they just came back, but he had won a gold medal. And I remember he had came. We I had fought him in the that national tournament. He was the number one seed in my bracket, and he was my first fight, and I ended up beating him. So I think that was probably my most memorable fight, amateur fight.
Winning early builds confidence.
Mhm.
When did you start believing you could go pro? Did you want, maybe, did you want to become an Olympic champion?
I think around probably around when I was 15, around 15 years old, I knew this is what I wanted to do. Like I knew I had the potential to be world champion. I was fighting top level fighters in the amateurs, and I was beating them. I was stopping some of them. So I knew around 15, 16 years old that I had the potential to turn pro and be a big fighter in the pros.
What was your toughest amateur loss?
My toughest amateur loss was probably we I was fighting at a national tournament, and I remember 2 weeks before I had went to that tournament, I was sparring, and I got hit in the ribs, and I felt like a pain. I felt some like weird pain, but I think I just took some like ibuprofen, and it kind of went away. And then I remember the next week, the week before the tournament, I was sparring again, and I got hit around the same area, not as hard. I barely had gotten touched, and I had felt it, and from right there, like I had like uh some real bad pain. But like we were so close to the tournament, and I was trained. I had a good training camp and everything, and so I decided to go. I didn't go to the doctor or nothing because I was scared they were gonna tell me I couldn't fight. So I didn't go to the doctor, and so I ended up going to the tournament, and I ended up fighting 4 days or 5 days. And for the first 3 days, I was just outboxing everyone I was fighting. Like my style was more coming aggressive, trying to come and hurt you. But my rib was kind of like messing up with my conditioning. So, I started boxing, and I was outboxing everyone, and I was winning. I made it to the semifinals, and the guy I was fighting, he ended up hitting me right in the rib, and uh, it was real painful, and I ended up beating him. I ended up beating him, and then I made it to the finals. And then in the finals that day, man, it was just I was just hurting real bad for my ribs, you know. And I still thought we still thought we won the fight, but you know, any little movement was hurting my ribs and everything. So I think that was probably my the loss because I knew if I was healthy, I would have won the fight easily. And you know, we ended up losing it, but I thought I still won the fight. You know, it was harder than what it should have been, but I thought I had won the fight still. But I think that's probably my most the loss that hurt me the most in the amateurs.
Who was your most difficult opponent for amateurs? Tell me please about him.
My most difficult, mm, my most difficult opponent, probably.
There were no such.
I don't know. I mean, there was this one guy from California. We fought, I think, two times, three times. I beat him every time we had fought in amateurs, but he was probably that. I think just because you know he had that like I had already beat him, so of course he wanted to come and beat me because I had already beaten him. So I'd probably say when him, just because you know like I had beaten him, but it was not like an easy fight or nothing. Like he actually gave me a hard fight, and it's probably him.
Approximately. How many amateur fights have you had?
I probably had about 58, close to 60 amateur fights. So not too much, but I had a around close to 60 amateur fights.
Fighting styles develop in amateurs.
Mhm.
How did your style evolve during amateur years? Tell me please about your boxing style. This is Mexican style or American style?
I think I have more of a Mexican style. My style was always been aggressive. You know, I never in the amateurs. I never minded getting hit just to come and land my punches. So I think more my style is more of a Mexican style, and then but I also can I am able to box. I think my boxing ability is pretty well. I'm able to make uh make you miss and counter and but so I think I'm pretty good in the Mexican style and pretty good at boxing.
Next, I wanna to listen about your pro career. Fight number one versus David Music. Your debut fight is
Yes,
always
sir.
special. It's where everything become real. You stepped it in undefeated mindset from day one. That
Yes, sir.
confidence showed immediately.
Mhm.
What were your emotions before your debut against David Music?
You know, my thing was that was like the first time I was away from like my family, so it was like more of like a hunger. Like in my head, I was like, you know, because in my head going into the fight, I was just thinking of my opponent, like, you know, because of you, uh, I was away from my family, so like me, I had like that mindset of like I'm going in there to hurt this dude because you know he made me be away from my family. It's pretty much kind of like how I was thinking of that fight. But yeah, I mean, you know, that was probably I probably never forget that moment. You know, it was probably one of the best feelings in the world. You know, turning pro. You know, a dream come true, and then going in there winning by first round knockout. You know, it was a dream come true.
A first round knockout sends a strong message. It
Mhm.
shows power and readiness. Did you expect to finish him that quickly?
To be honest, I didn't. I did want to go in there win by knockout. I did want to go in there make a statement. I didn't of course, I didn't expect to go in there right away and finish it, but that's how it happened. And it's just it gave you kind of gives you like kind of gives you that confidence, like, okay, like I went in there and I was able to do this. So, you know I have the ability to compete in this sport as a professional.
And debuts can define confidence going forward. What
Mhm.
did that win teach you about yourself? Possibly you have seen that you can knock out quickly.
It showed me, I knew I had power, but to me it showed me like, like I had the power to go in there and you know stop stop my opponent, in the first round. It showed me that I did have the power to compete on this level, and it showed me that I had the ability to be where I'm at, to compete on a big stage.
Your second professional fight is where people start paying attention. After
Mhm.
a strong debut, expectations rise quickly. Opponents begin to take you more seriously. You stepped in again and showed your power. That consistency early in a career is dangerous for the division. What was your game plan going into the fight against Lyle McFarlane?
Is the same thing, go in there, make a big statement. um I had that camp. It was We were working on two different punches that whole camp, and those two punches were the punches that hurt my opponent and stopped my opponent. So it was a good feeling, knowing that for 7 weeks, was it 7 weeks, 7 weeks straight, that work actually paid off, and it showed, like, what you practice, comes into play.
Back to back knockouts
Yes,
always
sir.
send a message. It tells
Hmm.
everyone you are not just winning, you are dominating. Fighters start to respect your power very quickly. At that moment, did you start feeling like a dangerous knockout artist?
I did. I knew when I had won my second fight, when I had won by knockout, I knew I had that power to go in there and be able to hurt anyone. I know that boxing is it's a dangerous sport, and I knew, as a growing up, knowing that as a professional you need to have power in the professionals was something good to have. And so my second pro fight, when I had won by knockout again, it was I knew I had like the that power as the professionals to compete, the professionals to make big statements, make a give the fans what they like.
Your fight versus Luciano Ramos. This fight was different because it
Hmm.
went the distance. It showed another side of you as a fighter, not just power, but endurance and composure. That's
Hmm.
where real boxing begins. How did you adjust your strategy when the fight went all rounds against Luciano Ramos?
That fight was it was a little different, a little awkward style. But yeah, that fight showed me, that it was my first fight, actually going the distance as a professional. I mean, I've gone the distance as an amateur, but those were only 3-round fights. But when I went to distance as a professional, I knew I had the gas tank to compete as a professional as well, because going to 6 rounds, it's still not, those 10-round, 12-round fights, but I felt good conditioning wise. I knew that I felt good. I felt like I could have gone another two, three, 4 rounds as that early in my career. So, that fight showed me, that same thing that not every fight's gonna be go in there and knock them out. It showed me, patience, and it showed me that I had a good gas tank.
Going the distance teaches patience. It
Mhm.
forces you to think inside the ring. Every round becomes a mental battle. What was the toughest round for you in that fight? Or maybe did everything go easily?
I think I didn't really. I think I won every round on the fight. I think maybe I want to say I think in the fourth round, um, my nose started bleeding, and probably around there, I'd probably say it was the toughest round of that fight because as an amateur, I never really bled. I never really had a bloody nose or anything from sparring or fights. So probably I'll say the fourth round because that was probably the first time I saw blood coming out of my nose.
Looking back, what could you have done better in that fight?
I think what I could have done better was probably be a little bit more patient. I wanted to go in there and I had won my first two fights by knockout. So my third fight, of course, I wanted to go in there to win by knockout. So I think just being more patient, just remembering that the knockout's not going to come if you go chasing for it. That the knockout just comes. So I think probably being more patient, more calm.
That fight proved you are not one dimensional. You showed
Mhm.
you can box smart and stay disciplined. That's important for your future. Did that fight change how you see yourself as a boxer?
It did a little bit. That was I got hit a couple times in that fight, and so it did show me that okay, like I can't rush in as well. I can't just rush in, going trying to uh, hurt my opponent right away, because I know that as a professional, we don't got no headgear, little gloves, so one punch could have changed the whole fight, and so that fight also showed me, like being more patient, calm, not trying to rush things.
Cesar Villaraga. By this point, you were building real momentum. Staying undefeated puts pressure on every fight. Opponents want to take that away from you. How did you prepare for Cesar Villaraga? Tell me please about your training camp.
So that Cesar, that fight was uh and also that one was a difficult fight as well, because I originally had another opponent, but that fight I think the opponent I had originally had, I think something came up that with his medicals and stuff, so I didn't even they ended up finding Cesar, and they gave me him my fourth fight, and I remember my manager had talked to me before I had fought him, telling me that if everything goes well, I win this fight, they were gonna move me faster in my boxing career than what they had planned, just because my opponent, he had a bigger name. He was an Olympian, and he had already fought in some bigger names. So for me to be fighting him as only in my fourth fight, it was a little nerve wracking knowing that this he was not just uh just an opponent, knowing that this guy was actually going in there to win, that he was going in there to, or that he had the Olympic experience. He was already a professional for he was a professional since when I was like 10 years old, so he already had quite a bit experience as a professional. So, but yeah, I mean, that fight was a little difficult at first, trying to adjust, but we got the job done. We went in there and got the job done.
Winning decision requires discipline and control. It's not about power, but about precision. That's
Hmm.
a different kind of challenge. What was the key to winning that fight on points?
Can you,
Maybe your ring IQ?
uh, that fight, it did show me ring IQ, some ring IQ. He was a tough opponent. I hit him and he wouldn't fall. It just showed me that not everyone is just gonna. I'm not gonna just go in there and hit somebody and knock them out, and it's gonna be easy. It showed me that that some guys could take a punch. Just stay calm. Calm and just stick to the game plan. That's pretty much what it was with him. He took some good shots, and it showed me that uh that the patience that I needed to to uh stick to the game plan, even when um we got someone that's in there tough.
Every fight adds experience, and every opponent brings something new. That's
Yep.
how fighters evolve. What did Villaraga do that surprised you the most?
What surprised me the most about him?
Yeah,
Uh, what surprised me probably that he could take a punch. Probably that he could take a punch because man, I was landing some pretty good shots on him, and he was taking them. But and same thing, like as my third fight, it showed me that to be more calm, patient, because the same thing I was trying to go in there to win by knockout, and like as a fighter, you can't just go in there expecting to knock your opponent out right away because that's when you could get caught with something and you could get hurt or knocked out. And so it showed me that not every fight is gonna be you're gonna go in there and knock them out. Some fights you're gonna win with power, some fights you're gonna win with, boxing. So it did show me, to be able to adjust.
Joshua Briones Garcia. At this stage, you were already a recognized undefeated prospect. The pressure keeps growing, every fight matters more. Did you
Mhm.
feel more pressure going into the fight with Joshua Briones Garcia?
Uh, I felt pressure. Mm, maybe a little bit. I felt maybe some pressure on that fight because we are fighting here in Texas. It was my first professional fight in my home state, and so I had a lot of people come out and watch me fight, and so probably I had felt a little pressure just because I was close to home. I had a lot of people come and watch me fight, so.
Winning by decision again shows consistency. You proved you can control fights over time. That's
Mhm.
championship mentality. What was your biggest advantage in that fight?
You know, I think I think that fight, my advantage was, like, I had already won by knockout. I had already won by decision. So I knew how I felt. I knew I could go every round, and I also knew that I could stop my opponent. So, my game plan, was to go in there, stay smart, stay sharp, you know, do what my coaches were telling me, do what my coaches were telling me to do, and that's what we did. We went in there, we hurt them. We hurt them in the very first round, and then we hurt them again in the fourth round. We went out there to go stop him, but you know, he was a real tough opponent. He could take a punch, And that fight also showed me, he caught me a couple times with some good shots, and so it showed me, not to get careless or get lazy with my defense, because even though you hurt your opponent, they could still come back with uh with something that you don't see, and it could end up changing the fight around. So yeah, I was that fight, I was winning the fight. I was doing good. I was outboxing him. I hurt him, and he caught me with a couple shots that I shouldn't have got caught with, just because I got lazy. I got too comfortable.
At this point, your record was still perfect 5-0. That creates confidence, but also expectations.
Yes,
Did
sir.
staying undefeated change your mindset in any way?
No, I mean, my job, just to go in there, do what my coaches tell me to do, and God willing, come out with the victory. And of course, I don't want to lose, so I'm gonna go in there, try to work super hard, to come out victorious.
Your fight versus Damonte Smith was perfect. Your latest fight ended in a TKO that shows you are still dangerous and improving. You keep
Yes, sir.
fin- you keep finishing fights when needed. What did you do differently in the fight against Damonte Smith?
I think that fight was uh more patience, and I think I showed more patience in that fight. I knew the guy of the Monte. He was a good solid opponent. He was undefeated. Southpaw, and he came out real slick, he was real good. He had a good jab. He had good defense. He was a good footwork, so just being patient, being calm, I think was what helped me in that fight, to stay calm, stay collected.
A TKO victory shows control and timing. It's not just power, it's
Hmm.
precision. That's a
Yes, sir.
sign of growth. At what moment did you realize the fight was yours to finish?
Um, in the second round, I knew I had the chance to stop him. He had felt my power in the second round, and from there, I had already knew I had hurt him, and I just knew it was a matter of time. And then in the third round, I think in the third round, I had hurt him, and so around in the third round, I knew the stoppage was coming.
Earlier, you mentioned about Julio César Chávez Sr.
Hmm.
Julio César Chávez Sr. is one of the most iconic names in boxing history. His style, pressure, and mentality inspire generations. It's really
Hmm.
interesting to hear your thoughts on him. What does Julio César Chávez Sr. mean to you as a boxer?
Just that Mexican style. He was a Mexican fighter, and then we fought on the Cinco de Mayo weekend. So I mean that, like, to be able to be fighting like on the stage that he's fighting on was like a dream come true. I mean, it means a lot. I was not I was not here when he was fighting, but growing up, watching videos, watching his fights, I knew I always wanted to be just like him, just like Oscar De La Hoya, just like Pacquiao.
Chavez was known for his incredible pressure and body
Hmm.
punching. He had a style that broke opponents mentally and physically. Many fighters today still try to learn to him. What specific aspects of Chavez style do you try to learn or apply?
I think what I try to like learn from him, that constant pressure, he was a fighter that, like he had that good pressure, but he also had good head movement when he was on the inside where he didn't get hit as much. I mean, he got hit, I mean, it's boxing, you're gonna get hit. But he had that me like I like the way he would move in. He'd come in moving in and start attacking the body. And that's pretty much like how my style is. I try to come in, slowly work myself in and start attacking your body.
Every every fighter has someone they look up to and try to emulate in some way.
Hmm.
Even modern boxers carry pieces of legends in their style. It's always fascinating to see those influences. Do you see do you see any similarities between your style and Chava's style?
I do a little bit, the the pressure, that constant pressure, that constant head movement on the inside, going attacking you to the body. I see I have I try to work on that constant head movement on the inside, and trying to uh hurt you to the body, slow you down, especially, like my last opponent, he was real good moving around, so I knew that for me to slow him down, I had to attack the body. And I think I did a real good job going down to the body to try to slow him down.
Chavez was not only a great boxer, but also a warrior with an incredible mentality. He
Hmm.
fought through adversity and never backed down. That mindset is something rare and powerful. What do you admire the most about Chavez's mentality?
Probably not caring, that mindset of, that I'm gonna go in there, I'm going in there to hurt you. I like the, you know, not being scared, because I mean, in boxing, you can't be scared, you gotta have that mindset that you're gonna win, because why are you in boxing if you don't think you can win? So I think that having that mindset, him having that mindset of that I'm gonna go in there to hurt you, I'm going in there to do whatever I can, to whatever I need to do to win, is probably, what I liked about Chavez.
Mexican boxing has a very special identity in the sport. It's known for hard aggression and never backing down. Fighters from Mexico often bring a unique style that fans all over the world love. It's more than just technique, it's
Mhm.
cultural and pride. And many legends come from that tradition. Julio César Chávez Sr., Ricardo Lopez, Saúl Canelo Alvarez, or also Oscar de la Hoya. In your opinion, who is the greatest Mexican boxer of all time?
The greatest, eesh, that's I'll probably do Chavez, Chavez or Salvador Sanchez.
Oh,
But I think I'd probably do Chavez, just because Chavez. Everyone loved Chavez. Not even just boxing. Outside the ring, people loved him. And I think I think he's probably the greatest Mexican fighter, greatest fighter to come out of Mexico. He had that when he fought, from what I heard, from my family, from other people, from videos, it's like when he had fought, and it was like a holiday. It was like a holiday. And like the same thing now. Like when, like, the Cinco de Mayo weekend. Like it's like a big boxing holiday now. That's that weekend. Um, that weekend is like a big weekend in Mexican boxing. You're gonna have a good Mexican a war that weekend.
When people talk about Mexican boxers, they often mention their warrior mentality. They fight with passion and emotion, giving everything in the ring. That's
Mhm.
something fans deeply respect. What do you think makes Mexican boxers so tough and respected worldwide?
I think it's just that hunger that we have. It's something. Lots of Mexican fighters. We'll go in there, we'll die in the ring. And I think that's what it is. Like as a Mexican fighting, you think of the fight as a war. You don't go in there playing around. You're in camp. You're just thinking of the fight. That's all you're thinking of. You go into the fight. That uh it's gonna be war. That's all you're thinking about. So I think that's just that mentality. Of that a Mexican, every time a Mexican fights, that he's gonna do whatever he has to do to win.
Today, Mexican boxing is still very, very strong. New champions continue to rise and carry the tradition forward. The legacy is alive.
Mm.
Many great Mexican boxers, Virgil Ortiz, Benavides, Canelo Alvarez, and others. How do you see the Bam Rodriguez? How do you see the current generation of Mexican boxers compared to the legends?
You know, I think boxing is coming up big again. Especially that Mexican Mexican boxing. Even Mexican Americans. Like even like I'm Mexican American. I'm from here. But my roots are in Mexico. That. So just having that mindset. You know, you want to keep that tradition. You know, you've had Chavez fighting up here. You had Oscar de la Hoya. You had Canelo. So now us younger fighters, we want to be up there with them. Competing. You know, keeping that Cinco de Mayo weekend um in boxing, keeping it a a tradition. Keeping it. It's a holiday. So for us Mexicans in the sport of boxing. So you want to keep that uh keep that like tradition alive.
You are still at the beginning of your journey, but your potential is already clear. Fighters like you often have big vision beyond just the next fight. The
Hmm.
future is something every athlete builds step by step, day by day, week by week. Fans are always curious about long-term goals. Where do you
Hmm.
see yourself in 5 years in boxing?
God willing, world champion. you know you know just work myself up, patiently. I know my time is gonna come. I feel like I have a real good team. I have a good promoter, Oscar de la Hoya, Golden Boy. I got a good manager, Joel de la Hoya. I got the best trainers in the world. Joel Diaz, Antonio Diaz. So I got a really good team, and I know that as long as I stay on the right path, I stay humble, I stay disciplined. I know in 5 years I'll be world champion. God willing.
Becoming a champion is every boxer's dream, but staying at the top is even harder. It requires discipline, mindset, and constant growth. What is your ultimate goal in professional boxing?
My ultimate goal, to be one of the best. Be able to be somebody that kids look up to, somebody that people look up to, knowing that, that I wasn't just a good fighter, that I was also a good person outside the ring. Um, I want to be able to be remembered as one of the not just the one of the greatest fighters, but also a person outside the ring, good person outside the ring.
Outside the ring, every boxer has a different personality. Some are
Hmm.
calm, some are energetic. Fans love to see that side too. How would you describe yourself outside the ring?
Uh, I'm just, a normal person. I like to do, the same things as a normal person. I'm not nobody crazy. I like to, you know, uh, be with my family. Hang out with friends. Go out, hang out with some friends, with my family. Just I'm real, probably a calm person, chill person. Not really a, a crazy human being.
Music is a big part of motivation for many boxers. It
Hmm.
sets the mood before training and fights. It can even define your mindset walking into the ring. Tell me please about your ring walk song.
The music I listen to, like the songs that I choose before I fight, is like a song that always it's a song that that switches like a switch. As soon as I hear that song, it's just like makes me want to get in there already and fight. So I like I'm Mexican. Got to always keep it with the Mexican music. My last fight we came out to El Papá de los Pollitos, and my fight before that was El Correo de Chihuahua. So my family were from Chihuahua. And so and then um, just yeah, the music I like to listen to right before I fight. It's just some music, that like, kind of like hypes you up, makes me want to get in there already and fight.
Uh, who are your favorite artists right now in
My
music?
favorite artist right now, um, probably I like a lot of older music. Like, I like Los Invasores, I like Los Tucanes. My newer group right now, probably Hermanos Espinosa. I like them. Um, who else do I like? Clave Especial. Uh, some I like some country music. There's some country music I like. Uh, Artists on country artists, I don't really have like a country artist. It's just more music. Um, yeah, pretty. Those are probably my favorite groups right now in music.
By the way, do you like rap?
Do I like rap? Mm, I'm not really a rap type of person. I don't really care for rap. There's some like older music like from Tupac that I like, some older rap, but I'm not really a person that listens to rap.
Movies can influence mindset just like sports. Many
Hmm.
fighters get inspired by strong characters and stories. What are your favorite movies or boxing movies?
My favorite movies, probably my favorite movies right now is probably the Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland. I like the those movies. I like Avengers. Um, my favorite boxing movie. There's a movie called The Prize of Glory. That one's I like the story in that movie. Um, I like Hands of Stone. I like that movie. Um, the George Foreman movie I like, but I like more action movies, action or comedy action. I like comedy action movies as well.
By the way, Do you prefer Spider-Man with Maguire in the lead role? Is it modern?
Uh, Probably the modern. I like the modern ones better.
I agree with you. Sometimes boxers imagine their life outside boxing too. It's
Mhm.
important to think beyond the sport. What would you do if you weren't a boxer?
What would I do if I wasn't a boxer? Uh, I'm actually I'm doing a school. I'm in college right now as well. So I'm going to get my my business degree. Um, but I really like I like trucking. But to be honest, if I was in boxing, I think I would probably be a professional in like baseball. I've been an athlete since I was little. And I started playing baseball since I was 4 years old. And I grew up playing football, baseball, basketball, track, and boxing. So I'd get out of baseball practice, I'd go to boxing. I'd get out of football practice, go to boxing, track, basketball. But I think if I was in boxing, I think I would have probably I think I could have went professional in a baseball if I was in boxing.
Do you like soccer?
Do I like soccer? I never really played soccer. I never really caught my attention. But I do like when the World Cup comes on, I do like it. It is interesting, you know. But me playing soccer, I could never like get into it.
In your opinion, in your opinion, who will win World Cup 2026?
In my opinion, ooh, I don't know. Well,
Uh,
hopefully Mexico comes and goes and wins it.
Mexican team is very strong.
Yep, yep,
Fans love to connect with fighters on a personal level. Social
sir.
media, Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok change how athletes interact with people. How important are fans in your journey?
Oh, the fans are, they mean a lot to me. I see them as part of my team. I try to every time I fight, I try to reach out to everybody. Every time I fight, I try to uh, keep my fans with me. Of course, I'm here from Amarillo, so I always try to keep the 806 with me, and but yeah, I try to interact with all my fans as much as I can. I mean, without them, I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at. They supported me, and that's the support they show me, motivates me.
Every boxer wants to leave a legacy, not just wins, but something bigger,
Hmm.
something people remember. What legacy do you want to leave in boxing?
Just that legacy, that every time I fought, I left it all in the ring. That's, I know that. Um, I just want, to leave. I want people to know that every time I fight, that I left it all in the ring, win, lose, or draw. Uh, I left everything that I had in the ring.
And last question. You are now 6-0, still young and gaining momentum. The future looks very promising. Fans are starting to follow your journey closely. What message do you have for your future opponents and the boxing world?
Not just that Javier Gallito Meza is gonna come, I'm hungry, I'm ready, I'm excited. I'm gonna come, I want to be world champion. So I'm gonna do whatever it takes to come out there and and get those belts around me, and yeah, just everybody stay tuned and stay ready.
Javier, thank you so much for your time, for this honest, powerful interview. It truly means a lot to hear your story, your mindset, and your journey as an undefeated boxer. I really respect your discipline, your focus, and the way you carry yourself inside and outside the ring. You are definitely one of the fighters to watch. I want I want you to know that people in Ukraine are watching you, supporting you, and respecting your path. We love fighters with heart, and you have shown that from the very beginning. Stay strong, stay focused, and we are looking forward to seeing you become a not just champion, you become a undisputed champion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And thank you for having me. Thank you for the support. It means a lot to me. Thank y'all.
Thank you too, and goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.